I got to sign up for my test.
Well, I had a June 1st expiration, so I'm like, I got 2 days to sign up for this, so I signed up for it.
I've got 2 cards sitting on my nightstand to remind me to sign up, and I just never remember.
My problem was Lena was taking a nap, and I had to make a call as to when do I sign up for the test. And I'm like, Father's Day's in the 20s, right? And so I'm like, let's do the week before. Turns out I signed up for the week of Father's Day.
Father's Day's in the 20s, right?
Are you playing me? Are you playing the video?
I didn't mean to. I had it open on the background tab.
All right, everybody, welcome back to number 13, session number 13, lucky number 13, or is it unlucky 13?
It's lucky. I've had good luck with it.
You've had good luck at the 13th. So we're going to continue down our journey. And if you remember from last Tuesday, we were wrapping up, or I guess halfway through the reports, all the built-in reports in Jira. I don't see how this is going to be on the test. I've never taken the 620 before, but I find it interesting that it's covered. But we'll jump into it, talk about it, and keep going through it. All right, so let me share my screen. And while I'm sharing my screen, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button, because guess what? We are still a few, what is it, 60, 80 away from 2,000?
80. Yeah.
We're 80 subscribers away from 2,000 subscribers, which is going to be a huge milestone. I think after 2,000, I didn't celebrate until the 5,000 mark. So we're going to have a while to celebrate before the next celebration.
If I remember right, these things tend to be exponential, so we'll probably be at 5,000 before we know it.
Yeah, hopefully before the end of the year, but we'll see. Ivan, hello. We'll be in your neck of the woods in like 4 months.
Yep.
Okay, so let's keep things going with tracking a project release with the release burn down. So here's a report that I hardly ever use. So all the reports we worked up to this point, those are the ones that are my go-to ones. Those are the ones I'm using on the daily. We start entering territories where like, yeah, they're there, they're cool, but do I use them? Not really. Do I care for them? Probably not. But
releases in general are just not really utilized a lot, as much as they probably should be.
Yeah, I usually get the value in the release just within the releases tab inside of the Jira project. So I don't see value in venturing off to, go to the report. But we do have a release burn down. So if you are using releases, this is going to show you how quickly your team is working through the backlog, assuming you're putting things in release. Like, this is a very big assumption. You want to see how work is added and removed during the sprint. Again, assuming you're using a release, this will help you. Because if you don't put things into a release, then all this just doesn't even work. So that's the very, very big caveat at the beginning, is you got to make sure you put things into your release, which, as Ronnie just mentioned, is not a feature that a whole lot of people are like itching to go and do. But if you do it, right, you get these benefits. You can see how quickly your team's working. You can see the overall sprint progress. You can predict how many sprints it will take to complete the work. I think this is a good method to predict, right? Is most people typically like a date, but I think in the agile world, having a good prediction of, oh, well, we're going to finish in like 3 sprints or 4 sprints, that typically is a little bit more abstract, which I like, versus it's due July 5th.
I mean, how much of this are you going to get from this one report, or how much of it should you be getting from roadmaps, or whatever they're calling advanced planning these days?
Just plans. Yeah, I mean, there's
portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting the signals from a few different places. So you got, these are data points, folks. These are just reports that you should be watching, monitoring, and helping you with your narrative and your decision making. The release report down is going to help you to monitor whether a version will release on time. If work is falling behind, you can quickly take action. Folks, spoilers, work will always fall behind. Always. You stay informed of the version progress and scope change insights, and then get accurate predictions to your stakeholders. So here's what this one looks like. You pick your release up at the top. Again, if you're not using releases, then this whole thing just kind of goes out the window. You get your predicted. I like how Atlassian's own pictures doesn't have the data. Like, I would have taken a screenshot that had the predicted data. But over here on the right-hand side, you get your forecast. So this is going to tell you, when things will be done. You have your work completed. So the light green shows the work that you've completed during the sprint. Wow, this UI is horrible. Your middle tier is the work remaining, and then the bottom is your work added. And I'm assuming the number you're seeing here are story points, which, holy moly, that's a lot of points.
I mean, this is story points, but you have to remember, this is story points for a release. It's not for a single sprint. If you're committing to some, just back of the envelope math here, 500 points in a sprint,
No,
you
but
don't have your
that's what this
your
is telling you,
point scoped
because
right.
no, that's what it's telling you, because this release has 1,100 points.
So who's committing to 500 points per sprint?
Crazy people is what they are. Predicted sprints are calculated based on your team's velocity and total work remaining for the epic. This is interesting. Wouldn't this be for the release? We're in the release burn down. I don't see any breakdown by epic here.
Yeah, that's weird.
Velocity in this case is the amount of work you completed in the last 2 sprints. Scope change is not considered when calculating velocity, but is calculating in total work remaining. So this is going to allow you to, you're going to want to view the progress of your versions across sprints, focus your attention on the work completed and the work remaining bars. This team completed 270 points in sprint 34 and had 102 points remaining. Track scope added. So this bottom, I like this. I like to see how much work you added. I think this is a valuable metric. And then predict how long it's going to take. So they're going to go and do the predictions for you, which of course the screenshot doesn't tell us. Let's see what we learned. Leilana's team has been experiencing some scope creep. She wants to see how much work has added in sprint 9. How many points were added in sprint 9? So we got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 60.5. That's easy. Which of the following statements is not a function of a release burn down? The release, look, the release burn down tracks the projected release date for Epic, which is what was in the document. For the version, which I think is true.
Yeah.
The release burn down can show you how much work was added and removed during a sprint. That's true. The release burn down helps you predict. That's true. So yeah, so there's definitely a typo because this is not a function. Yet up here,
it very clearly says Epic.
Yep. Dun, dun, dun. We found a typo. Where's Joanna?
I'm sure they'll hear about it.
Tracking your cycle time with control chart. So this is one that I kind of like, but I've never knew how to read. So let's see, how do you do this one? So the control chart shows your cycle time for a product, version, or sprint. And the cycle time is the time your team spent working on an item. Typically, from when the time, boy, I can't speak. Typically, the time when the work begins to when the work is completed. So end to end. This is important. Because if you create something in Jira and you wait 6 weeks to start it, that 6 week is counted in your cycle time. So it punishes teams that are proactive and preemptively creates a crap ton of work, which to a certain degree, I'm okay with that penalty, because in the world of Agile, like, you don't know the future, and like, you're supposed to embrace that ambiguity. So you're not supposed to plan out you're not supposed to create up every task that comes to mind. You should create just enough to get started, just enough to get by. But as a project manager, that's usually a hard pill to digest or swallow. All right, so the control chart maps the average time spent by each work item in a particular status over a specified period of time. This helps you identify whether data from the current process can be used to determine future performance. That's a mouthful. So here's the chart itself. We got a lot going on here. So you can use the chart when you want to analyze your team's past performance. So that's good. So unlike some of the, like the burn down, I feel like the only one that gives you a trend, but it's within the sprint only. But this one gives you a trend even beyond the sprint. You can pick your dates. Obviously, you can do the last sprint time, but you can go beyond 2 weeks. If you want to measure the effect of a process change, right? So maybe you told your team you're not going to get dinged for every failed build, and so they start building faster, or they take longer to do their builds because they don't want their build to fail. You're going to see that data here. If you want to provide your external stakeholders visibility to your team's performance, this is going to tell them, like, look, this is how long it's taken us to do stuff, so chill out. And if you want to see your past performance, to set targets for your team. So maybe you're bringing on new work and you're looking at a previous project your team worked on, and you're seeing that average cycle time is taking like 2 days for 100 issues or whatever, like this 11 weeks for 181 issues. So you're like, you know what? It's going to take us at least 3 or 4 months to do this plain project. So you can get that data. You can make that decision based on data. And so you're going to be able to see outliers and investigate their costs. You're going to be able to see if your team's efficiency is improving, right? If that cycle time is getting lower, then that's good. We want the numbers to go lower. And then predict how quickly your team completes work, right? Because again, we see this, we have this metadata up here that tells us a good amount of situational awareness information. And so this up here tells us the key reports. This right here is the details. So you can click on that work item and it's a green dot. A cluster of work items appears as a solid green. So these solids are good. That means you have a lot of work happening in that same general area. You can zoom in and click and drag your cursor across the chart to focus in on a specific time. You can see your standard deviation. So the blue shaded area represents the data amount, the amount of variation, the actual data from the rolling average. Then we have our red line is the flat average cycle. And then the blue line indicates the rolling average. So too much math. How did you do in statistics, Ronnie?
I'm okay at it. I understand it to a point, but
I'd rather not.
this chart has always been problematic just because, like, I get the individuals, what the individual bits represent, but I don't know how to interpret that to go, our team is improving. Do we want a higher blue line? Do we want a lower? I'm never quite sure.
I think you want a lower blue line and you want your dots as low as possible.
That's the general consensus I've given as advice, but
yeah. See, when the blue line dips below the red line, your team is completing work faster than the average speed. So that's good. Obviously, though, it's not sustainable. So you want to balance there.
If they keep going below the average, eventually the blue line is going to rise back to meet the red line because that's going to be the new average.
It reminds me of we didn't talk about this in the velocity chart, but I remember when I was on a team like back in 2017, and they started making us, estimate our story points and find our capacities and our velocities, right? And so for a sprint, we're like, all right, we're going to shoot for 100 points, right? And so we plan our work and we got to 100 points. Awesome. We went and ran our sprint. Turns out we finished 80. Right. And so the manager's like, all right, let's shoot for 80 then. Because the first 100 was just the number we threw out there to see if it's stuck or not, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Chad. And so we shoot for 80. And we run through the whole sprint and we ended up finishing 70 out of 80. Our manager's like, all right, let's shoot for 80 again. And so we shoot for 80, and this time we come in like at 71, 72, whatever it was, right? And like, okay, how about we shoot for 70? So we go shoot for 70 for that next sprint. We came in like at 55. And he's like, whoa, what happened here? We kept lowering the bar. We kept performing worse.
But again, we have to look. That's not the full picture. Were the stories equivalent across all the sprints? I mean, ideally, a story point should be an equalizer, but you and I both know that not every story is created equally. Even if you even if you're perfectly accurate with how you're story pointing it, not every 13-point story is going to be exactly the same.
True that. Just funny how life works out sometimes like that. All right. But again, you want to be careful just when you're looking at this because you might push your team, but it's not sustainable. Higher values indicate a possible bottleneck, right? So if your values are dipping or going up high, then that means your team's stuck. And if they're stuck, that means somebody's not helping out. The standard deviation, a narrow shaded blue band means work items are spending less time in statuses and your team's improving efficiency. A wider band, the team is spending more time. So this is high efficiency, this is low. So wide is, I guess, if you turn your head sideways, not taller. All right, let's see what we learned. So what does the control chart measure? Not the number of stories included in the sprint, not the number of work items, the effect of process change. Yeah, that could do it. I think it's C.
C, cool. I would agree with.
All right, Stanley is looking at his team's last sprint in the control chart. He notices that the blue line consistently stays below the red line. What does this tell him? The team is completing work slower? Nope. There was a potential bottleneck? Nope. Work items are spending more time in statuses. Nope. The team is completing work faster. Yes. Man, I hope the whole test is like this.
It'd be nice.
Can I walk out with like 100%?
I mean, I think you've gotten about as close as I've ever heard anyone getting 100%.
Use insights in Jira. These I love. These I absolutely love. So insights are a feature in Jira that give you a team daily, gives teams a daily dose of information when and where they need it. Your team can plan smarter and take informed action in just a few clicks. Insights are currently available for Scrum and Kanban metrics in both company and team managed projects. You can find the insights feature in your team's board, backlog, or deployment views, right where the key decisions are made. So this is what I like. It's right there. You don't have to go far. And you get a lot of cool stuff. Like you get, if you have items that are flagged, if you have a blocks and blocks by, if you have items that have due dates and they're past their due date, they're going to show up here. You also get your sprint progress here, which is kind of cool. Like, so it's telling you out of all the items we brought into our sprint, how many are done, how many are in progress, and how many haven't been started. These are based on status category, by the way, not individualized statuses. You also get a burn down, which I think is cool that it's a micro burn down. It's right here, front and center. And then you get an epic progress, which I think there's a bigger report for as well.
Yeah, I believe so. But I mean, this in the olden days, you know, I like speak to server and data center because I'm old.
Yeah.
We used to have to go to like 3 or 4 different pages per sprint meeting to talk about all these that you now get in one place where you're already working.
This one's an interesting one. So I feel like if they were going to put something on the test, this would be something you put on the test here.
Absolutely.
And you should be aware that insights are sourced from a board level data and summarized to provide a team a holistic view. If your organization uses work item security, then with your company managed projects, your site admin will need to enable the aggregate data permission to gain access to the insights. Because if you're blinded to it, you're SOL'd. All right. While insights show you key metrics when you need them, sometimes more information is needed. That's when you can dig deeper with reports in Jira. Reports and insights weren't designed to be used exclusively. You can use your reports and insights together to get the information you need to move your team forward. All right. Plan smarter sprints with insights in the backlog. So insights are available for any number. So what we just saw was at the board level. We do have them at the backlog level. And so what I like about this one is that this right here is the most valuable one. You get the two things you get in here, I think, are super valuable, but I find that the first one's the most valuable. So when you're planning out your sprint, you get this like what I call Goldilocks chart, because it's going to tell you, right? It's going to look at how many points you've committed to for the sprint. And it's going to tell you, just like in the story book for Goldilocks, right? Like, is it too hot, too cold, or just right? And so the chart's going to tell you, this little dash line is like what your target should be. And it's going to tell you, okay, are you under, over, or just right with your estimates? And then you get the issue type breakdown, which I really like as well, because not all work is created equal. And sometimes you're working on stuff that's hard. Sometimes you're working on bug fixes. Sometimes you're working on new features. Sometimes you're working on out of scope work. And so whatever you're working on, your situation is going to be changing. And I love having this issue type breakdown because it gives you a good understanding of like, okay, for this sprint, my team's spending 50% fixing bugs and 50% working on stories. But if you only work off of stories or only work off of tasks, that distribution is not always appreciative. And so I like to add work items like spikes, because now I can say, okay, 10% of my sprint is research and development with spikes, 25% is bugs, 10% are just tasks, and then 50%, I don't think my math added up, but 50%, 45% is of new features.
You call them spikes. I call them buckets. I like to do this too, especially when you have work that you know is going to be unplanned, like incident response. If you know you're going to have to deal with incident responses, it usually takes about 2-3 hours a sprint. You could plan on that. Something I'll note here is this is the Goldilocks. This is the ideal. It does not take into account personnel. If you have a guy who's going to be on vacation for a week this sprint, you need to manually take that into account and reduce your target from what it will say.
Yeah. It's easy to forget that. Very easy.
And then you find yourself overcommitted for the workforce you have for that sprint.
Yep. So this is just stay on target, right? So you want to be viewing these insights during your sprint because like this sprint progress is going to be helpful. But the epic progress, I like to do my epics as like features or capabilities that I want to deliver. And so this right here helps me understand for a particular feature, how complete is it?
I have a feeling your passport story should have been an epic.
Optimize your delivery pipeline with insights found in the deployments view. So this is something I have not played with yet, but in the deployments, so if you have your Git and all that stuff plugged in, connected and integrated from previous sections, you do also get an insight. So you can see your deployment frequency, and you can see again Goldilocks, or how often are we reporting or deploying, and then you have your development cycle, and so it's giving you that again. That's that control chart that we just looked at, but in a more condensed view. So I really like this one as well. All right, let's see what we've learned, if anything. Sven wants to quickly see how his team is progressing towards their sprint goal. Which insight should Sven use? So, sprint progress?
It's literally in the name.
A sprint progress, right? Because it wouldn't be deployment. It wouldn't be the epic. I would think it's the sprint progress. And I don't think there was the commitment was in the backlog.
Yep.
True or false? Insights are available for both Kanban and Scrum metrics. I think that's true.
That is true. That one feels more like an advertising question than an actual test question.
Oh, Atlassian, how you left to tease us. All right. Create basic dashboards in Jira. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to use dashboards to gain insights to your team's work and create simple dashboards. So what is a dashboard? A dashboard is a customized screen that gives you a high-level snapshot of everything happening in Jira. Dashboards are made up of small configurable blocks called gadgets. For example, your default dashboard may have gadgets like an introduction, projects assigned to me, and activity stream. If Atlassian could work on a new feature, instead of revamping the entire UI and pissing everybody off, they should improve their dashboards.
We've talked to Atlassian about this, how the basic set of dashboard gadgets we have in Jira today is the same one that was on server when I started in 2014. 11 years, no significant update. And Atlassian loves to say, well, there's not much more we could do than what we have done. And I'm like, custom charts exist.
Yeah. Custom charts exist for a reason. There's a lot of I've heard chatter that there's a new dashboard functionality coming through, but I have not seen any concrete evidence.
I definitely look forward to this, but I will say this: if you are a project admin, even if you are not taking this exam, this should be a skill that you have and know well. If you are not taking advantage of filters and dashboards, you are not taking advantage of Jira's full power.
Yep. Okay. So different users may see different information on a dashboard depending on what permissions they have. So it's important to know that if you don't have access to a specific issue or to a specific project, you're not going to see the data. And most of the time, especially if you don't have access to the filter that drives that gadget, you don't even see that gadget at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gadgets though. So you see the assigned to me. This is kind of cool. So this was dynamic, right? So as every user logs in and looks at Jira, like this assigned to me is different. It's not the same for everybody. That's important to know. We have our work item statistics. So this gadget shows one characteristics about work items. For example, you can use this gadget to see how many of your projects are in each status. This is one of my favorite ones. This is probably one of the better. I think they literally took the two best gadgets they have, which is this one and then the two-dimensional one.
Yep.
Which basically just shows you two different fields as like the cross point. So valuable there. So how do you create a new dashboard? So you go to dashboards on the left-hand side of Jira now in the navigation. You create a new dashboard and that's it. Important things for you to consider. I'm actually quite surprised that Lassen didn't mention this, because you can really screw yourself over here very easily. But most of the time, not all the time, but I'm trying to find my right words here, because most of the time I think it's too strong of a word. But typically, when you're creating a dashboard and you pull in those gadgets, it's asking you to pick your source data, and your source data is usually one of two things. It's either going to be a project or a filter. And I don't know about you, Ronnie, but 9 times out of 10, I'm picking the filter. Right? Because again, you don't have something like custom charts for Jira that allow you to do something a little bit more powerful.
You
So if you're
really
picking the
gotta
filter,
be on top of your JQL game to get the most out of these. And again, if you need some help learning JQL, I cannot recommend Rob Heen's doing a course right now on Tuesdays dedicated to JQL. So definitely check out his videos.
yeah. Now, again, so you have to create the filter first. It's usually a chicken and egg situation, because when you go to like pull this mobile dev one, unless you pull the whole project, most of the time you're going to pull a filter. And so the filter needs to exist first, but you're going to run into two problems real quickly. If you create your filter first, which again, most of the time you do need to, your filters are defaulted to private. And so it's easy for you to see data in your filter, and you're like, okay, cool. I got my filter. Let me go to my dashboard. Let me create the dashboard. But when you go create the dashboard and you're referencing that private filter, you could potentially remember to share the dashboard, but the filter didn't get shared. And so the data is going to be empty. So you want to make sure you're accounting for both. You got to do the filter and the dashboard. I've also seen the opposite be true as well.
Yep.
Where people share the filter, but not the dashboard. And then forget about it. If somebody sends you a link, you don't know who the owner is, and only the owner of that filter can share the filter with you. So it becomes like a whole scavenger hunt that I don't like to do.
It's better now, especially for Jira admins. In the before times, when they said it was a private filter, private dashboard, they meant it. Even your Jira admins could not see or modify those items to share them out for the project admin. So if someone had a private filter or dashboard and then they left the company, that was still in the Jira database, but it was essentially gone forever.
Gone forever, indeed. All right. So now that you have your dashboard, that's how you create one. Then you got to add your gadgets. So usually this is how you're greeted with a brand new dashboard. So you just click the plus button and you just add gadgets. And so you have a lot of gadgets that are out of the box. I think there's like 54 out of the box, something like that, about 50. And then, of course, you get to go and buy more, because you're going to want to buy more. Trust me.
There are 54 out of the box. You may use 5 of those realistically. And you'll use them everywhere, and you'll play around with them in different ways, but you're not going to use a lot of what's built into Jira.
Yeah.
I have tried to find excuses to use some of these and fallen short.
Yeah, you will most likely not be. I mean, the two that we talked about earlier, those are the two that I usually use, but most of the time I'm using
those
custom
two
charts
and
or something.
chart are my 3 top that I use. The 2-dimensional, the pie chart, and the God, I just blanked it.
Yeah. No, there's just a few. You're gonna need a third-party plugin. There's third-party plugins by like my 3 top favorites are AppFire's got one. I forgot their name, but AppFire's got a good one. There's that Agile Metrics or Agile Gadgets or something like that. I forget who makes that one, but that one's good. And then obviously our custom charts for Jira,
which we are not sponsored by. We just think they're a good product.
I was going to say RIP though. Okay, moving on. So you can organize your gadgets to a certain degree. You can pick your layout, and then you can just drag and drop your gadgets where you want them. Try to tell a narrative, but you're basically working your way top down, and have a lot of patience, because those gadgets, to move them around, are not the easiest thing to move around. So come with a lot, and I do mean come with a lot of patience. All right. Somebody wants to add a gadget to her dashboard that shows how many work items are in each epics she's working on. and what status they're in. Which gadget can help her do this? She wants to see how many work items are in each epic and what status they're in. So that's going to be a 2-dimensional one.
Yes.
Because she wants to see how many work items are in an epic. Well, maybe just a work. Well, this could be both, right? It just depends. It's be a work item statistics if she has a filter just for the epic.
It's what they mean by their end. Is it the children of the epic, or are they the epic itself?
I know this is hard. Can the out of the box even do this?
Again, I'm thinking with apps because you can do a function field with different apps that calculates the children for you, and that would be one way to do it 2-dimensional. I think it's a work item statistics, but again, when you're taking the exams, people, you need to assume this is a vanilla Jira instance with no apps.
Right. And so I don't know that out of the box this is gonna fly here.
Yeah, I think it's work item stats.
But that assumes you have a filter now. Nope.
You're going to have a filter.
In this case, and it wants to show, okay, so the work items wouldn't be able to show the level of detail. None of these were going to be able to show the level of detail. This is not possible. You cannot show this. Tangent time. Let's go prove that last and wrong. We got a dashboard. We're going to pull in. Oh, well, here's our 2-dimensional one already. So we're just going to edit this 2-dimensional one that I have here. And she wants to see the children of an epic. Which one of these is going to give me children of an epic? I can think in Epic Link, but that's no longer in play.
Maybe it's a holdover that they haven't updated yet.
Are they teasing? Maybe dashboards are finally going to become useful. I don't see a single item. The only one that could possibly do this.
Parent?
Do you see parent? Okay, let's try parent. But the parent's going to go up from the epic. I feel like Epic Link would do it because the Epic Link would have been the child pushing up. But you know what? Maybe it's parent too. I guess it depends on where you're looking at. Let's try both. Let's try parent first and then status. And let's see what this one does. So this is nobody has a parent. What the heck is this? This one has one. Wait, let's see. Let's make this big. What am I getting here? Shopping cart. So this is a story.
I guess you can do this.
And that's the Epic AAD4. So wait, so the Epic is called users can add products to shopping cart. And if we look at this one, shopping cart checkout. Wait.
I think if we had flipped the X and Y here, it would have been more what they were asking for.
Well, let's flip it and see if we can't. Status. And parent. Which, by the way, parent would be okay. So, yeah, so these are epics.
Yeah.
Look at that. Color me colored. What does it say? What is it saying? Color me something, right?
Color me surprised.
There we go. Color me surprised, because holy moly.
I don't know what color surprise is. And we're like, jealousy, yeah, that has a color. Scared, that has a color. Surprised, I don't know what that color is.
Inside Out failed us because we know the colors of at least those emotions.
Yep.
All right, well, color me surprised because yeah, I this is great. I'll make it. Damn, I need to make a video on this. This is how to view the status of your children across an epic and a gadget.
But this is what makes. I know I was talking in the chat during Rapin's video last Tuesday how you cannot sum up using JQL. And technically that is correct if you're just using JQL. But if you save that JQL as a filter and then put it in a dashboard gadget, especially this two-dimensional dashboard gadget, you can do summation so long as you're looking for the sum total account of the issues that was returned, depending on some metric.
Yep. Okay. True or false? Different users may see different information on a dashboard depending on the permission. That is true.
That is true, but there's a trick you can do to get people to see different information on a dashboard automatically just by being different people. And that's to use the current user function in your base filter. That's going to individualize the filter to them. So if you do assign to equals current user, that's the same thing as the assign to me gadget. They're going to see stuff assigned to them. You also do reporter, whatever, using that current user field.
Yep. All right. Configure advanced Jira dashboards. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to edit and copy a dashboard, examine different dashboard layouts, add an appropriate gadget. Let's see what else we can learn. Edit a dashboard. So after creating a dashboard, it can easily be edited and reconfigured. For example, your team might want to add a new gadget or change the layout. You must be the dashboard owner and have editing permissions to dashboard details. In the sidebar, select your dashboard, then click on this edit button, and then you'll be fine. Now, if you can't edit the dashboard, then that means somebody created a dashboard and shared it with you, but did not give you the edit permission. Once you do edit, though, you can configure your dashboard. You can add new gadgets, change the layout, remove gadgets, edit the existing ones. Changes are saved automatically. Select them when you're done. And so you can add gadgets by just picking from the list. You can change the layout by clicking on this layout. I wish this was more flexible. I wish you can have more freedom. That'd be cool. And then you can configure the gadget, which means like picking the filter, picking the fields that are displayed, and all that good stuff. Copying a dashboard. So you can copy a dashboard and create a clone and all these gadgets. And when you copy, you can choose a different name and reconfigure the viewing and editing permissions. This is helpful when you're using an identical dashboard for different layouts for different teams. So helpful, but be careful because this is how you end up with like a million different dashboards. This one I never used, Ronnie. Did you ever use this one? But you can view your dashboard as a wallboard.
I have used this one. This is great if you have like a kiosk or a TV where you just want to show stats.
Yeah. But in the world of, virtual remote, but this I think would have been cool to have in an office.
Yeah, this was great when we had office environments. I had something like this set up for giant projectors in this one office I lived in where we were all in this football field sized room, 400 of us with projectors pointed at either side. And this was great for that.
Yeah.
Haven't used it really since the pandemic times.
All right. So anyways, you just click on your dashboards and there's like a view all dashboards and you're just going to view it as a wallboard. And then you can plug in and turn your monitor and you see it full screens. The gadgets will rotate when you display them as a wallboard. To avoid this, change the color of the gadgets and ensure gadgets in the same row have the same color. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we learned. Gail added a gadget to his dashboard. However, it's not showing any data. What's the best possible? So it didn't get configured. That's a good reason. Not a good reason. Not a good reason. And not a good reason. Because if he was able to add it, he has the edit. I'm assuming he just forgot to set it up.
Yep.
Then the next one says, Maribel wants to organize her dashboard to have one large column and a sidebar. Change the layout.
Yeah.
All right. Configure data sources for Jira dashboards. So now I feel like this should have been.
I think we already covered this.
Yeah, but this should have been first because you can't. It's like putting the cart before the horse, folks. You can't do that. You need to have gone through the steps that we described earlier to then do the steps that we just covered. But this should have gone first. So gadgets display summaries of team progress reports and other data from Jira projects and work in the dashboard. They can be customized with filters to display project and work details relevant to particular users. You can use multiple projects as data sources for a dashboard. This is kind of where you start getting, again, to more advanced things, which is why it's also in the advanced section, right? But Traditionally, your boards, especially if you're not on the premium version of Jira, they're very specific to just one project, one board. But most of the time, you have multiple teams working on stuff, and so sometimes you want to see data from other teams. And so the best way to do that is through a dashboard. A team may have several different roles, each of which has different needs. Gadget filters allow dashboards to be customized to show relevant information. So to configure your gadget, click Edit, pick a gadget, then More Actions, then Configure, and then select the data source for your gadget's filter. And so basically, you just pick here is a filter. Again, go create the filter first before you even start creating dashboards, because it's a chicken and egg situation. And second, make sure your permissions are good on that filter. You can also only select a single filter for a gadget, so you can't select multiple ones. But you can build a dashboard, or you can build a filter that pulls in a lot of different data. Anything you want to add there, Rodney?
Nope, I think you got it there.
All right. So understand report series to find trends in your service project reports. The report series consists of a collection of data points used to create reports. For instance, a series might represent the number of requests received over a week.
And I just thought of something back to the previous point. It literally just occurred to me as I said it. It says you cannot combine multiple filters. Technically the truth, but what a lot of people don't realize is you can reference a filter in your JQL, and you use that to not or combine whatever you need to do, your filters from there. So it still has to be on the filter level.
I did not know that was a possibility.
Yeah, you can reference a filter in your JQL. I forget the exact mechanism. I'd have to look that up myself because it's been a few years, but it is entirely possible.
That's good to know.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, it's fine. I had no idea. Are you sure it's not a script runner thing?
I am 95% sure it's native Jira.
Well, when in doubt, if only we had access to a Jira. Here's a filter that we have. How the heck do I reference it?
Uno momento, por favor. Just using its name.
Yeah, that worked. And filter, I can do an or. Look at that. And then I'm assuming if I go to Anna's filter, it's going to have some of this information in here.
Yep.
Yeah, look, there's Turkey 38, DP 79. Wow. The Turkey 38, DP 79. And if I do the and, it's going to take out the ones that aren't in it. Nice.
Yep.
Cool. There you go. We learned a second thing today. How to reference.
Yeah, this is Atlassian doesn't even cover this in their courses. I don't know how I came across this bit of functionality, but you can absolutely reference a filter in a filter. And I have not seen how far you can go down with this web.
There's another series we got to do. Filter Inception is what I'm going to title that video. All right. I feel like this part's going to be neat too. Understand report series to find trends in your service project reports. So a report series consists of a collection of data points used to create reports. For instance, a series might represent the number of requests received over a week. In the daily totals from day 1 to day 7, this would give the difference in the number of requests received each day of the week. While individual series can highlight trends, their effectiveness increases when they are plotted together. You can use any number of series as needed. So in a report series, you should specify the following: your series, your label. All right, let's explore an example because I have no idea what they're talking about. Let's explore an example here. So first, Hema needs to create a JQ filter using JQL. Then she must save the filter to add it to her gadget. So here's how she writes the filter. This, and this. Okay. So she creates a filter and saves it. Awesome. And then shares it. Easy. Kindergarten stuff. She has a gadget. And we have a JSN specific filter results. Okay, kindergarten stuff there too. She configures it to point to set filter. Okay, and then she views it. Right, and this is not revolutionary. I think they spent way too much English to describe something very basic. All right, let's see what we learned. So which of the following statements is about dashboards and gadgets data sources is definitely true? You can select multiple filters for a gadget. Wrong. You can only use a single project as a data source. Wrong. You can only select a single filter for a gadget. Yes. You can combine multiple filters in a gadget. Wrong. So this
Unless
one.
you're doing some JQL trickery.
Yeah, we learned about our JQL shenanigans. Oh man, I can't. We're learning. I swear I took an in-person version of this course. They used to do courses back in the day.
Yeah. Some in 2016, 2017, they had courses the day before the actual conference started. And
Really?
they had one on dashboards and filters that, because I was still a relatively new Jira admin, I decided to take. And it was crazy valuable, but it felt a lot like this course.
Okay, last module, and then we're done for this whole thing, and it takes 10 minutes. So sharing a dashboard. So once you've created a dashboard, you can share with your team. Again, you got to remember to share the filter too. This will allow others to view the gadgets on your dashboard and the information populated by the gadgets. Users can only view dashboards that have been shared with them. However, what appears on the dashboard might differ for each user since the data displayed is connected with filters. Users can't change the shared dashboard unless you give them edit permission. So in the sidebar, select dashboard, select your thing, then there's a rename and share, and then at the bottom you do the rename. Easy peasy. The person setting up the share must have the create shared objects global permission. Ooh.
Yes.
So in Jira, there's a setting under system, global permission,
Which will show up in about a day or two.
Yeah, we have shared dashboards and filters, so we need this one. Although this one doesn't align with what they just said. I don't see.
Tomato.
Yeah, well, I don't see their.
I don't create shared objects, but it's understood to be create shared dashboards and filters.
Finding a shared dashboard. So this one's easy. You just click on dashboards, view all dashboards, and if it shows up, you're in luck. If not, then you're screwed. But yeah, this one's easy because all you got to do is just come to the dashboard section, which I, of course, have mine hidden. Thank you, New Jira. Click on view all dashboards. And if it shows up in this list, you have ability to see it. If it doesn't show up on this list, sorry. That's all I can tell you. Sorry.
Go speak with the dashboard owner or your Jira admin.
And good luck finding out who your dashboard owner is. Share filters with gadgets. So some gadgets use filters as their source. Data filters might be shared to the views. This should have been the first thing, Rodney, not the last thing. Alana added okay, so basically you create the filter just like you would, but you just got to make sure you share the filter. So make sure you're sharing it here, because if you don't, bad things will happen. Then go configure your gadget and then show your dashboard. Yeah, this should have been the first thing, not the last thing. So let's see what we've learned. Ricardo is viewing a dashboard that his manager shared with him. However, one of his gadgets isn't displaying any information. What's the best explanation? Definitely not the first one, which is this is very wrong.
Yeah.
Ricardo doesn't have the permission to view the dashboard. Probably not, because it says one of the gadgets, so that means he can see the other gadgets. So the gadgets filter isn't shared with him, so that's the one. Which of the following is not true? So what appears on the dashboard will be the same for all users. No, this is not true. Wait, what appears on the this is not true. Users can only view dashboards that have been shared with them. This is true. Although technically they can see the dashboard that they created too. The person sharing the dashboard must have created technically, but this is wrong. Filters used in gadgets must be shared separately. Okay, this is definitely not true. Wait, filters. Oh yeah, yes, definitely true. Man, this whole question sucks, but this is the right answer for this question. But this is a horrible question.
I think the question's not horrible.
The answers are horrible.
horrible.
Yeah, the answers are horrible. All right, I earned another badge. Yay. By the way, Ronnie, if you're not following along, I've been earning my badges to get my recertification for the ACPs.
You see, I'm saving I've got like 10 points left to recertify, and I'm saving that last little bit for when they're almost expired so I can get the maximum length of time on my recert.
Ah. Smart.
I've been doing this for a little bit. I got my first cert in 2017 and it has not expired since. It is only now about to expire because they are retiring that certification.
Yeah. All right, we are down to the last 55-minute section here, where we're gonna go into plans. And given that we have 9 minutes left, Ronnie, I say we pause it here and we pick it back up and talk about plans. So we're gonna cover plans and how to do basically a lot of stuff with plans, and so that's gonna be fun. And then we'll pick it back up on Tuesday, and so I think we'll be able to finish plans next week. So that's
Plan
good.
should be simple. I think I know someone who does a lot of classes and live learnings around plans.
Yeah, I think I do too. So plans is the last section here. So as you can see here, so we'll finish that next week. And that leaves us. So if I look at my calendar as well. Uh-oh, I haven't done my calendar. So
we should probably have like 3 more of these left, I guess.
Yeah, so next week is June 2nd. So we're gonna finish plans. We'll get through all that next week. So that's good. And then we still have 2 more. So we have 4 sessions left here before I take the test. And so we're gonna then jump over to configure Agile boards. And this is an hour and 35 minutes. And so it's only 4 sections. We should, in theory, hopefully finish most of it, if not all of it, by the time I have to take my exam. So expect at least 4 more sessions minimum. It might take 5 or 6 to get through it all. But if I can get to the majority of this before I go take the test, we're going to be sitting pretty, because that'll be the last section. And then we just got to make sure we covered everything in this file. So yeah, about 4 to 6 sections left. And yeah, I think we're sitting pretty, Ronnie. I might actually be ready for the test.
And then we got to figure out what exam you're taking in Barcelona.
None. I'm going to do my 420 before that.
And then we got to find the ACA for you to take, because you're doing something in Barcelona.
I'm not doing anything in Barcelona. I'm going to go
Joanne
enjoy.
Let you get away with that?
I'm going to go enjoy Barcelona. I'm going to go see the Trevi Fountain. Is that Italy?
I think you're thinking about Rome.
Yeah. I'm going to go see the Trevi Fountain in Rome. What is that to see in Barcelona?
There was a chapel whose name I forget.
The Sagrada.
Yes, that one. Sagrada
Familia and Picasso Museum. Picasso's from Barcelona?
I don't know.
Sagrada Familia. Wow, that's a big castle.
It's still under construction. They've been constructing it for about 400 years now, and it's still not done.
Nice. Well, folks, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you got value out of this video. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Again, we got at least 4 sessions left. So hopefully, and then I can pass the test. Fingers crossed.
I think we should do a 5th one just so we can tell people how you and I will try and take it at the same day, how we both did.
Special shout out to our sponsor, Revyz, for making this episode possible, because none of this would have been possible without Revyz. Thank you, Revyz. Yep. Back up your Jira and use Revyz. Link in the description. Bye.
Bye.